Welcome to today's Ainsley News for July the 20th, 2022. AinsleyBullion.com.au. RBA's Housing Wrecking Ball. At a time where the government is announcing an inquiry into the RBA, we are seeing a stark contrast between their view of the world and that of the country's largest mortgage provider, and questions around the impact before us of statements like, "We will not be raising rates before 2024. So, let's see how that's playing out. The following post from columnist Chris Joy has certainly got people's attention. Quote, RBA and others like to talk about Aussie households having large mortgage repayment buffers on average. Yet this CBA data shows that 36% of all borrowers have zero buffer and almost 50% of borrowers have less than 3 months. End quote. Consider this against the backdrop of the following 2 tweets from Avid Commentator. Quote, RBA scenarios, cash rate of 3.1%. 28% of households on variable rates face a 40% plus rise in mortgage repayments. 42% of households on fixed rates face a 40 to 60% rise in mortgage repayments, with 11% facing a 60% rise in repayments. Should these loans ever have been written? Tweet number 2. Between December 2019 and March 2022, the median Aussie house price rose by 32%. Now the RBA says repayments may rise 40+% for 29% of variable rate borrowers, minus 7% of people, and all of a sudden, that's a huge issue. It's absolutely a big deal, but so is 32% more cash being sucked into housing market. End tweet. The RBA would like us to believe there is no policy mistake and that they can engineer a soft landing to a woefully poor call of 2024 rate rises and late response to rising inflation and lagging wage growth. The following excerpt from an article that should be read in full paints an incredibly concerning picture for Australians all in on property. Quote, with a recent survey performed on behalf of Finder.com.au showing that more than 1/3 of recent first home buyers were pushed beyond their budget in order to afford their home, we'll be exploring the scenario of a household borrowing 6.8 times of their income as one of our central themes. If this household borrowed 6.8% their household income on a 3-year fixed rate loan at 1.8%, this would consume 29.3% of their household income. According to the RBA, prior to rates starting to rise, the average mortgage rate on outstanding owner-occupier loans was 2.5%. With the cash rate now having risen 1.25% and it widely tipping to rise another 0.5% in August, a mortgage rate of around 4.25% is likely to be roughly ballpark in the coming months. At this level, this would be consuming 40.2% of the gross income of our hypothetical household. However, with the market pricing in a 3.5% cash rate peak for next year, this would put us at roughly the halfway point of the interest rate rise cycle. This view was recently shared by former Treasury Secretary Ken Henry during an interview with ABC's 7:30 report, during which he stated that the RBA will be looking to get the cash rate to a more normal level of probably 3 to 3.5%. At a cash rate of 3.5% and a mortgage rate of roughly 6%, our hypothetical household would now be spending 48.9% of their gross household income on their mortgage. Even in terms of the absolute best case scenario of a household borrowing exactly 6 times their household income, at a 6% mortgage rate, repayments would consume more than 43% of gross household income. End quote. And this is not a quick fix. He goes on, quote, a scenario in which mortgage repayments rise to 43% of gross household income or more was always going to be a challenging one, but once it's put into the context of current circumstances, it becomes clear exactly how much pressure these households may find themselves under. Currently, Australia is in the midst of its longest period of negative real, inflation-adjusted, wages growth since the introduction of the GST, Goods and Services Tax, in the year 2000. With the spending power of Australian households in aggregate falling behind the current rate of inflation by 2.7% per year, and Treasury estimates that it will be 2024-2025 before wages growth begins to once again outstrip inflation, the challenges faced by mortgage holders who borrow more than 6 times household income will continue to grow in severity. End quote. And discounting the commentators who say we won't get price declines until people lose their jobs and are forced to sell, he points to, quote, as we've seen in New Zealand, prices can plummet all on their own without any assistance from stressed households pulling the ripcord and getting out of the market, end quote. While Australia is at record low unemployment, nearly every recession is preceded by very low unemployment, and the bets of a recession coming are sounding louder and louder. Whether Australia escapes it, as in 2008, largely depends on the demand for our commodities, and this time it looks a little like China may not be there. Regardless, we will most definitely feel the pain, at a time when the figures above paint a very painful picture for many already. Choose your investments wisely. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and head over to ainslieBullion.com.au.